Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ted Stovin. I am one part of the Cowboy Shit podcast. My partner in crime, Wasey Anderson, has gone to a rodeo this weekend, so I've got my good friend, and she runs everything Cowboy for us. She's Miss Darby Crouch. Darby, welcome to Red Deer and the Horse Expo.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here for first time with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun day here. The weekend just getting started. Dustin Sapola has already made his first session with his colt over in the Cowboy Shit Arena over there. So we got a live show coming up here though with you, and I guess we'll get right to introducing our guests for this morning. We're gonna get to meet a few of two of the three trainers and another clinician as well. So we'll get right to it. So, growing up on the back of a horse, she taught inside the classroom for 5 years. After her education career, she moved to professionally train horses all across the world, from Italy to France, Australia, and she spent all this last winter in the U.S. After owning and operating her own arena for several years, she shifted her sights to coaching and the focus on equitation. So, from east of Calgary, close by Pollockville, please welcome Jill Barron. Thanks for joining us, Jill. We'll get it to so Jill's got 3 different clinics this weekend, and the first one's going to be this afternoon, isn't it, Jill?
Is this on? Yes, yeah. It is this afternoon.
Awesome.
I'm actually not sure what time.
It's in our program.
For something.
Yeah, I'll have to look in the program. We'll get to that here later on. But I want to bring up our next guest. Starting his first colt at 12 years old, he specializes in problem horses, finishing older horses, and competing in colt training competitions. A writer, he and his wife Bronwyn also host the Horse Trainers on the Cowboy channel here in Canada. From Port Elgin, Ontario, please welcome Jason Irwin. I don't know if the guys can hear us backstage, but that was your cue, Jason. If you can, yeah, here he is. There we go. One more time, Jason Irwin. Woo! And our third guest, another of the trainers this weekend, a former CFR qualifier in the saddle bronc riding, also to the Montana Circuit Finals. He's worked on ranches from BC to Saskatchewan. He's a former colt starting competition champion. He's actually won 75% of the events he's competed in. From just outside Cardston, Alberta, though, please welcome Dustin Sapola. All right, looks like Dustin gets the dreaded middle seat. Sorry about that. I guess that's what you get for being third out. Okay, so let's start with Dustin, though. You had your first session with your horse already. You picked one of the Blue Roans over there. Just talk about that horse. Some fun names on him today too, but just talk about how the first session went for you.
Well, I think it went not too bad. He pretty easy to work with, pretty willing-minded. You know, he didn't do anything I didn't expect really. You know, he's first time getting saddled and being worked. There's going to be spots in there where they're unsure of things, and all you can do is adjust to the situation and do the best job you can, and try to keep their mind with you a little bit to the best of your ability, and that's about all you can do. And you get done what you get done that day, and we're in the first go, and hope ended well, and second round we'll see.
So you've got kind of a 45-minute session down so far, another one this afternoon, 2 tomorrow, and 1 or 2 Sunday. I forget what the run is.
I think 2 Sunday.
2 Sundays, so 6 total. 6 in 3 days. Is that right, Jason?
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 1 training session on the Sunday and then the finale on the Sunday evening.
Okay, gotcha.
But don't quote me on that.
Okay. So how did it go for the first one, Dustin? What are you thinking? Like, did you accomplish what you set out to? It's not all about what you want to do. You have to focus on what the feedback you get and how it goes. What are you thinking so far, though?
Well, I was pretty happy. I got a saddle, and he got worked through that, and he was getting more comfortable with it, and I was getting him follow my feel and getting coming around and kicking his hip out. I mean, I would have got on him if he was ready to get on, but he wasn't. So I mean, it doesn't matter. If it would have took me, if I didn't get him saddled the first go, it wouldn't really matter. I mean, if he was that tough, it took me long enough for all 45 minutes where I could touch him and rub him all over. I mean, that's what it took. So all you can do is do what you can with the time you got, and try to make the best out of the horse you have, work with, and then just let it all roll out, because it's not about how much you get done every round. You know, it's kind of about where you leave them and their mindset. And if you can do that, and they come back the next time, they can be 10 times the horse that they were before, or they can go the other way and be a little snaky, you know. So it just kind of, the horse will tell you kind of where he's at in that moment, and all you can do is work with what you got and what you created in a way, you know. And that's, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
That's a lot. Good job.
Jason, I want to ask you. You got third pick as far as the horses go, but you guys don't know much about these colts. They're only 3 years old. They've been they know how to get on the trailer, and they've kind of had a little bit of work, but like they're pretty fresh. Like there's not much to go on, is there?
No, and actually I only saw the colts for the first time when they walked in the pen, so we had like 1 to 2 minutes to look through them. So there's really not a whole lot to go on. I think it's a little bit tricky sometimes if you pick one that looks like it's gentle and easy. The first part will be easy, but maybe doesn't last as well through the competition. On the flip side, if you get a tough one, obviously that's tough, but then sometimes they last a little better. So there's always that balance point. You don't know which one really is kind of the one until you kind of get rolling with them. But yeah, I got third choice. I'm always a little bit prejudiced to blue roans just because we own 40 or 50 of them. So I was probably going to pick, just because I didn't know I was going to pick a big blue, but I got third. But honestly, I was very happy with my horse too. So I'm definitely not complaining in any way, shape, or form.
Do you guys only get to see and be around these horses in the arena for those 45-minute sessions? Is that what it is?
I'm not really sure as far as seeing them, like we saw them again, just like for those 1 or 2 minutes. But we're definitely not allowed to work with them at any other point and stuff like that. And just for the interest of maybe looking sportsmanlike, I kind of stay away from them just so they can't give that impression. But no, we don't work with them besides the time that you guys see us.
So Jill, is this a bit lower stress for you this weekend, not being in the Trainers Challenge? Is it a little bit kind of nicer to not have that part, or what are your thoughts on that this weekend?
For sure. I just, the teaching aspect I get to do is fun for me. It's not stressful at all. But 2021, we did Heart of the Horse. I started a colt with Dustin, and it adds a real element to your weekend for sure. But it's such a weird deal because you can't really plan. You really, like Dustin was talking about, you have to just be with that colt and be in the moment. And so stressing over it really, it doesn't do any good, but you just got to roll with what you've got and what's in front of you and just keep that horse's best interest in the forefront. So it's all kit and caboodle to just being around and working with horses. So I try to not let stress even enter my mind.
Because if you're stressed, the horse is going to be stressed too.
For sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Darby.
I was going to ask, Jill can answer this question too, but for the both of you going into this, I believe you know the bloodlines on these horses beforehand you go in the arena. I know some people in the industry are so strict on bloodlines and they'll buy a colt based off of the bloodlines. Does that matter to you guys at all when you go into this?
Not to me. I start so many and such a wide variety of horses. Lots of times I'll just go off my gut or what I read by watching the horse, more so than the papers. But the papers do have, if you do pay attention, I mean, there will be patterns, for sure. And so that it's good to know a little bit of both. It's good to be able to read them, and it's good to know your bloodlines a little bit. But you can take that too far too. I mean, I've rode a lot of great horses that right up there with a lot of $100,000 horses, just as good. So papers are important to sell, but when it comes down to riding, not so much. But you can weed out and try to pick the horse that you really, that maybe you think you're fit or what you want in a horse for how sensitive they are and their capabilities and how they move. I mean, darn sure bloodlines are a good way to kind of sort through that. But I would say keep an open mind a little bit.
Jason?
I would say on that one, with the colts that are brought here, they are all from the same ranch. They are somewhat similar breeding, so it would be pretty hard, I think, to go through and say this one is very different than that one. They kind of have basically the same family tree to them. Now, having said that, if I was looking at a group of papers and every horse on the paper suggested that it was going to be a little bit a horse that didn't maybe suit this format, then yeah, I probably would maybe not pick that one. But having said that, it's kind of like what Dustin talked about. You can have one that on paper looks like it should be one thing and it's totally another in real life. So if I was looking at the horses, if two were identical and the papers suggested a difference, maybe that would influence me. On the other hand, though, if one looked better in the ring, I don't care what his papers would look like, I would pick the one that I thought was the nicer horse.
And how are you deciding that on a 2-minute, seeing this horse for 2 minutes? What are you looking for? What are you focusing on? I don't know how you guys can do that so quickly and know which one you might want or not want.
Well, I got third pick, so it didn't matter a heck of a lot.
You got one of two.
That's true. I think generally, just kind of like what I touched on earlier, I'd like something with a little bit of substance that I feel like it could last through the competition. Because we do have to play to the horse's strengths. If you have one that's going to maybe wear out a little bit quick, we do have to tone it down so that we do not overwhelm that horse. So personally, I like something that looks like it's sort of strong and can get all the way there. We obviously cannot push too much, and that's the whole point of this, really. But I think we want to have it where we have one basically that'll last. And also, too, if one looks like it's just, there's certain horses, they're really, really good horses, but they take quite a while to get through to. And that in this format, that is tricky. It's not that it's impossible, but it is tricky. So I guess, again, we're probably going to, if something was climbing the walls, maybe we would stay away from that, just speaking for myself. But no, any decision could be the right decision. Any decision could be the wrong decision.
Go ahead,
So
Darby.
do you guys go into each session based off of what happened in the one before? Like, do you take that progress based on what you are feeling? Like, if they feel into the next session that you didn't get a whole lot of progress done that you wanted in the first one, do you kind of just take it step by step with them?
I would say on that one, I think you definitely do have to be always thinking about building off your last session, just because if you come in totally blank slate every single time, you're going to have to retrace so many steps that it might be kind of hard to get very far. Having said that, though, if you think where you left off is exactly where you're going to start up again, that could put you in trouble too, because they might have molded over, they might come out easier, they might come out a little bit harder, hopefully not too much, but it could go either direction. So I think every session, you do have to judge it based on where your horse comes out that day. But obviously, if you have no game plan, that's going to make life a little bit hard too.
Dustin?
Yeah, I agree in ways. I mean, I darn sure when I go in, I'll go in my second round. I mean, I'll got a picture in my mind how I want that horse to be. But then again, if for whatever reason he has to take 5 steps back, well, I'll just take 5 steps back with him. I learned that from a young age, riding with Sid. I mean, we rode lots of them, first saddle and second saddle, and and we got on. And we left the round pen lots of times first ride, maybe second ride, So that's been kind of ingrained into me, and that's how I work. And that's the thing. You can only be true to yourself, and you can only work how you work. You can't mimic someone else. No two people ride the same in the world or have the same feel or the time, and it all changes. So, I mean, you can try as hard as you want to mimic somebody, but you're never going to get it done. I'm a firm believer in taking stuff from everyone. I think you can learn something from everybody, good or bad. So the more open-minded you can stay, I think, your horsemanship will only go leaps and bounds. And don't get stuck on one person. Just because they explain things one way, but a person might explain it just a little bit different, and it might be just enough for people to understand a little better, And so I think, once again, just keeping your mind open and, your intention's good, and things will progress for you.
You mentioned Sid. I know you say you don't mimic a lot of these riders, but do you think that he had a lot of influence on you as a trainer? And then I'll go back to Jill and Jason on what made you get into this industry as well.
What made me get into it?
Well, how did Sid kind of influence you as a trainer? Because you started with him quite young.
Well,
correct?
yeah, I was like 7 or something, and so I was pretty fortunate, I don't like name drop, but Sid was good friends with Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance. So I got the privilege, in my opinion, there was no better way, to get a start. I never knew any other way. I mean, it's kind of... I just can't thank them guys enough, Kelly Cornforth, Dustin Gonnett, guys I've rode with, Joe Walter, Sid's the guy that started it all for me, And getting to be around Ray a little bit just because I was with Sid. Don't get me wrong. That was only because I was with Sid, but I got some great experiences there that stuck with me, and then Ray always, when I went out with the gang, he'd come there all the time. So those were all really big influence, and I mean, there's guys I haven't met that I watch their videos on the internet, friends, Harley Green, Craig Greaser, Mitch Zeller. I mean, I could go on and on. There's lots of guys that are up here, that people should look up because they're so trying to carry on what Tom and Ray were trying to get across, and I think, it's good to have a mix of everything for people working with horses. I mean, you do what you do that works for you, and I think that's good because like I said, everyone learns differently. But yeah, anyway, I don't talk myself into I don't know what to say.
Jill?
I'm impressed with how much Dustin is saying. You're doing great, Dustin. He was very quiet when we first started doing this stuff, so. I kind of forget the question, so you're gonna have to roll back to it. It was influences and how you got into the.
What brought you into this industry in the first place? Because you've been doing this for a long time, right? So, who is the one that influenced you getting into the horse training industry in the first place?
My story is a little different. It's just kind of found me. It's just been this path that's been like carved out, and I've just followed it along. I grew up horseback. We're cattle ranchers, and I would rather ride than walk from the littlest age, and it's just honestly a deep passion and love for horses and everything about horses. I never set out to be in this industry. I was a school teacher. I taught grade 7 for 5 years and just always trained horses from a young age, trained my own whenever I was rodeo, and I had to ride something that I trained because that's just the way I liked it, and it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. Stopped teaching school, got to travel all over the world and train horses, and came back and thought I'll train horses full time, and it's just been a kind of a runaway train to teaching and all sorts of fun stuff I get to do. So lots of influential people in my path as well, but I really believe that I am a big student of the horse. The horse has taught me so much of my program and my ways. I listen so much to them, and you try something, it works, it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board, you tweak it, I'm constantly, like Dustin was talking about, analyzing my riding. Like it's a daily practice for me, thinking about my riding and my feel and my timing, and I love to watch and I study. Like I can sit and pick up things that maybe a lot of people wouldn't. So I enjoy just being around horses, being around people, and it's a study for me. And there's so much to learn. And the day I quit learning, I will hang up my spurs. And so yeah, it's just a lifelong practice of studying horses. And for me, I do a lot of teaching. So it's studying people and psychology stuff and how they work with animals and the relationship. And so basically, I owe it all to the horse and just sticking my neck out to places that I probably didn't belong when I was younger and figuring it out. And it's taken me some pretty cool places, this event being one of them. So
I want to go back to that in a bit, but Jason, tell us your story.
My story is very, very long, so I'll try to give you the 2-minute version, or hopefully less.
We still have at least, we got till 11:45, so we got 18 minutes left.
Well, I was born on a sunny day in April of whatever, and that the quick background is my parents raised horses and raised cattle as well. I was always way more interested in the horse end of things, so I started trying to learn how to start colts since I was about 12, something along that line. At one point there, probably a lot of people here would know about it, when mad cow got found in Canada, the cattle went through the floor, and we were very busy with the horses, and the cattle were basically in the way. So we sold the cattle off and went strictly horse. That was about the same time I got out of school. So what we started doing is we were running back and forth to the southern and the western U.S., and we would bring home loads of horses, and then I would train them, and then we would sell them from there. So we got into that in a big way. And a lot of my background is just a little different in that I didn't really ride under somebody or learn directly from somebody. It was a little bit more self-taught, which, being totally honest, I'm not really going to go out and recommend that most people do, because a lot of times I probably got myself into trouble that it could have been avoided had somebody been standing there that said, don't do this. Because, again, my parents raised horses but weren't really trainers. They were more on the breeding end of things. So we did a lot of that. I always kind of made the point, or always had the thought in the back of my mind, that riding for yourself, which is sort of what I did, was a little bit different than being a public trainer, because if you're a public trainer in the beginning, if you have something that you're not getting along with, there is that deal, though, at the end of the month they go home, where when you own him, he never goes home. That's his home. So you have to figure out a way to get along with every horse at some point or another. So I'd say it was a little bit trial by fire there. We just did a lot of that. Eventually, we started doing the clinics. I have been a public trainer at different points. We raise a lot of horses as well. Well, I say a lot, 20-some mares. And then we always have 50 or 60 kicking around and stuff like this. And then we've expanded into several different areas within the horse industry. So it's a very muddled background, and I always made the point too, I was always studying other people. My running bad joke is I could have paid my way through Harvard with what I spent on videos and training books and all that kind of stuff. So I was always a student of other people, although I did not actually work for anybody else.
I gotta ask on the eastern western Canada side of things. Like I've been over there a few different times for some PBR events we've done in London and Toronto and Ottawa, Quebec, like a few different places like that. But like there's a ton of horses and a ton of western, a ton of English, like a ton of our kind of stuff. A lot of western stuff out east. Like it's bigger than a lot of us realize out there, isn't it?
It is very big. Actually, that's something when you drive around in our area, you can't go more than a few miles without seeing an indoor arena somewhere. So there's a ton of places, a ton of property. Having said that, we do clinics and events everywhere. So like, for instance, obviously you're here in Alberta this weekend. 2 weeks ago, I was in Ohio at a big expo there. 2 weeks before that, we were at an expo in Ontario, and we have several others booked as well. And so like we bounce around all over, but yes, to get directly to your question, there is a ton of horses, and there's a huge variety of events. There's almost every Western discipline there is represented to at least some degree. I would say here, probably roping is stronger here. If you're a roper in Ontario and Alberta, you're going to have a harder time winning, I would say here, if I'm being totally honest, than Ontario. But having said that, there is a ton of Western events. All the English disciplines are represented in a very big way there, so there's just a little bit of everything.
Jill, I want to talk about this winter for you. You've been a lot of different places, but just talk about the winter, and then we'll get into your first session this afternoon, 4:15 p.m. I just had to get the schedule out so I knew exactly. But yeah, just tell us about what you've been up to this winter. You've done a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. I get to spend my winters in California training horses. So I flew back yesterday, and I'll fly back to California Monday. It's just an ideal location to build some horses in the sunny California.
Tell us about where you are and what all you're up to. And you got a new horse. You're getting back here pretty quick too.
Yep. So the ranch I'm at is in between LA and Malibu. So it's in a fairly fancy
spot, area.
Yeah.
I heard Tom Selleck is your neighbor.
Yes, Tom Selleck is next door. Jamie Foxx is even closer. Kaylee Kukos from the Big Bang is across the road because she's a big show jumper.
Really?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool area. It's called Hidden Valley. The ranch is beautiful. No, but Tom Selleck's daughter Hannah boards at our facility. Yeah. So I actually really want a Tom Selleck autograph. That's like my whole goal is Tom Selleck.
Is that your first winter there?
No, fourth.
Fourth. Okay, so intention is to go back. So Tom Selleck might be on the horizon. Yeah. Maybe.
I got an in.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Talk about the first session this afternoon. What you're going to be going through. What people can expect.
I am going to back up, and yes, I do have a new horse coming.
Yes,
too. We do this a lot. We always have lots to talk about, you know.
Yeah.
I bought a Lusitano stallion from Portugal, so he's been imported, and he is coming up to Canada, so that's pretty exciting.
And this is your second or third now?
This is my third Lusitano, yeah.
Yeah. And the Oh, I forget his name. It's got a sweet name though.
Geronimo.
Okay, yeah. I didn't want to say the wrong name, but but you're doing a few shows with them now. We were in Polkville last year. You did that, and you were in Denver. Did a show down there as well. So that's kind of something new that you're adding. Innisfail is another one that you did last year, but it's a fun addition on the rodeo side because there hasn't been any new. No offense to anybody, there hasn't been any new kind of specialty acts in a while, honestly.
Yeah, it's just kind of a deal that's found me. We light fire, and the horses that I ride, I think, is a real badass. So it's cool to get him out in front of people. I just really wanted to show people the horse, and this whole fire deal has just evolved. It was never my idea or anything, but now I get to do it a lot. Denver's super cool. I get to ride a production called Dancing with Horses. So there's a whole bunch of cool horses from all over the world. And then I performed at the rodeo too, and Colorado versus the World and stuff like that. So it was cool. Actually, one of the neatest things I did was ride in a luncheon called Boots in Business. And there was 1,200 people in the middle of the arena with a track on the outside, and we lit fire around the outside of the track, and I rode my horse around there.
Bit of danger. Hopefully the insurance was paid up.
Yeah, they put what they call an E-match. I carry a garrocha, which is a big stick, really, and they put an E-match, which is like an explosive on the end of the stick, and my horse had never seen it before. And I mean, he's all there. He's not a pussycat. He's a Lambo for sure. And I asked the pyro guy, I said, can we light this off one time before I get in this? And he's like, oh no, it's just a little like puff of smoke and you'll be good. I'm like, all right, but it's like.
But for some horses, that would blow their mind, and they would freak out.
Well, he was not real comfortable. He was trying to exit stage left, but we did it. But yeah, it's stuff like that that's real exciting and fun. But so yeah, the fire is just kind of a fun thing we do, and the rodeos, it's been neat because you said there hasn't been anything new, and people were just like, holy heck, like what is that horse? And it's just kind of neat. So yeah.
What drew you to that breed of horses? Oh, that was did I steal that one, Darby? Sorry.
No, I was actually gonna say, like, I know you say these ideas are like brought to you and they find you, but were you just like laying there one day and you know what, I'm gonna buy a cool horse and start something with fire? Did someone approach this idea to you and say like, let's do it?
What happened, this horse, they shipped him to me from Texas to promote the breed. So the Lusitano is the bullfighting breed from Portugal. So they're the ones that they fight bulls on. So if you can see them, they can do 360s in front of charging bulls, and they'll deke. And when I first
that was Merlin, right? Merlin, yeah.
If you haven't seen Merlin on YouTube, look him up. It's what fired me up to the Lusitano. So I just thought, I gotta ride this horse, this breed. And then I went down to a judge's seminar in Texas, and it just happened to be a big Lusitano breeding farm, and really got to know them well, and they wanted to promote the Lusitano in Canada. So they shipped me Casaco, this buckskin that I ride and do the fire, and he was for sale, and I was showing him in working equitation. And then I couldn't imagine him with anyone else, so I bought him, and then we started lighting fire. But how the fire came about is at Nikki Flunder's deal, Heart of the Horse in Pincher Creek, she asked me to be a part of the evening show and put something together, and I'm like, okay, it's not really my jam, but sure. And I had 3 broken ribs during that event, so I wasn't quite sure if I could do it, and she saw me riding him, and she's like, please, will you just do it? So I did it, and people were like, that was really cool. We didn't have fire. I just kind of rode him around and did some stuff, and then somebody said, you should do that, but light some stuff on fire. And I'm like, okay. So then I went to Innisfail.
Was it Nikki's dad who did pyro for a long time? Was it Jim?
So then we go to Innisfail and did it at the rodeo. And all my buddies are there, like all the team ropers are hanging on the fence. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. But I did it and came out, and they were like, holy, like, that horse is so cool. So that was my whole motive, was just to get this horse out in front of people because he's really cool.
Did any team ropers try and buy that horse?
Yeah.
Not
for yet.
Sale.
Not yet.
I was just curious, getting us kind of back on track a little bit more. This breed of horse, has it kind of changed your training style and stuff when you come to the things like this and, teach in clinics and stuff?
This horse I'm talking about, Casaco, he will be the greatest teacher of my entire career. He has taught me so much, and I encourage everybody to find a horse like that. If you can swing a leg over and it's a whole new critter, in my opinion. I love them. I have quarter horses too. I love them as well, but they're just incredible. It gives me goosebumps even talking about them. But yeah, they've changed my life, and I'm kind of steering more into the Lusitano direction just because they're so fun.
Jason, I want to get back to the competition side of things next door here. In the meeting this morning, you mentioned that there wasn't. Is there not a category for difficulty of horse? Is that what you asked, or what the resolution was? I forget what that was about.
Oh, that was a pretty minor thing. Usually on the Trainers Challenge sheets, they'll have a category for difficulty of horse. So out of 5 or 10, I don't know exactly, but they'll just say the horse is this difficult to kind of allow for the fact somebody might have a harder horse than somebody else. At the same time, it's not technically on there, but the judges said that it's sort of factored in under a couple other categories. And honestly, I think this way is maybe a little bit better just because I think one of the things is, as trainers, we are trying to have the horses quiet and relaxed and doing well. So if a person goes in and has their horse constantly upset and constantly worried, it's possible they'll score really high for difficulty of horse because their horse always looks like it's having a meltdown. And where our whole goal is to have them quiet and relaxed and doing good. So I think it's actually probably better, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's actually going to be better this way, where they can kind of factor that in as they see fit, as opposed to here's a separate score for that.
Tell us more about the format and just kind of how this works compared to how you work at home. Like this is a very condensed schedule with 5 different sessions over, 5 45-minute sessions over the weekend. Maybe that's not how you work at home. It's not the same thing. It's very condensed, and there's a lot of interaction with this horse that quickly. Is that maybe it is how a guy works at home, but I don't think so. I think this is an extreme situation that's fit into the weekend.
I would say a little bit yes and no on that one, actually. I do typically move along at I would say a somewhat snappy pace. So honestly, I don't really mind the format the way it is. A lot of times in a trainer's thing, it would maybe be like 1 hour sessions, and it's 45 minutes here. 45 minutes just seems like it's right at the cutoff sometimes where you're like, I just want to do one more thing, and 45 minutes is up. And but so that's maybe a little different. The only other, well, not say the only other, but the other major difference I would say is, at home, there's really no need to worry about obstacles within the first few days. So the riding stuff, I would say, maybe is somewhat similar, although at home, it's not really essential that we get them over bridges and tarps and through things and stuff like that. So that's a little different, and we have to allow for that.
Darby?
Well, I'm just curious. This might be a potentially silly question, but I think there's judges. What are they looking for kind of at the overall end of everything on the Sunday?
I think we should ask Dustin this because he's won 3 out of 4 competitions so far.
Okay.
What do you attribute to your success in these challenges so far, and to win 3 out of 4 is pretty impressive at this point, is it not? Like Jason, Jill, chime in here, but like that's kind of yeah, exactly, yeah. You're one of the only judges in Canada to hold both cards, or what was the story there?
I judged a cold starting competition.
You got to tell everybody else this. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So Jill's judged these competitions as well. So what? Yeah. Tell us about Dustin. How's he winning? 3 out of 4 so far. That's I'm just assuming, but that's got to be pretty impressive.
It's actually kind of a difficult thing to judge, but you're just looking for that partnership and your progression through those sessions. We actually had a conversation about judging after Pincher Creek last year. Sorry, is it Brooks now?
So Brooks, so you weren't competing. You guys competed against each other in 21 in Pincher Creek. Last year you were judging Dustin in Brooks.
Yep. So they're a difficult thing to judge, a competition to judge, I feel, because it's not real cut and dry what you're looking for. You're looking for progression and relationship, and at the end of the day, you have this obstacle course that you're supposed to navigate. I don't know what the format is here, so I can only speak to what I've done before. It's cumulative points throughout the weekend, and how you're handling your horse. There's an educational component as well, so if you're educating your audience, and it's quite involved, really. Dustin did a great job last year when I judged it. I think I can say this, but in my opinion, he put on like a colt starting clinic the whole weekend. I don't think I've told you this yet, but I thought I knew which horse he was going to pick, and that's the horse he ended up with, and that horse had Dustin written all over it, in my opinion. I don't know, you can speak to it too, but So it was this perfect matching of horse with Dustin too. But I mean, Dustin is a hand. I don't know Jason. Sorry, I can't speak to Jason, but he's great with a colt. So, but that was a good colt to fit with him. So it was good watching.
Okay, we got a couple minutes left here, but I had one thing on my mind. I'll start with Jill and work our way down if you guys are up for it. But is there like a handprint on a horse from different trainers that people can kind of see if that horse is trained by this guy? Are there different intricacies? There've got to be a little bit maybe, but I'm really curious.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know if you want more information on that, but yeah, you can tell if you know the style of a trainer and how they ride, and for sure everybody will change leads differently. Everybody will start a colt differently. So yeah, you get to know that style of a trainer and you can pick it out. But you have to know. You have to study it.
Okay, I guess last thing here. What are we looking forward to for the rest of the weekend? You've got there's lots more content here, but just talk about that a little bit, Dustin. Just kind of what you're looking forward to the rest of the next couple days.
Well, I don't know. They got lots of clinics and stuff going on by a wide variety of people, and I think there's something everyone can probably take out of it. There'll be somebody here teaching that people will understand better than others.
Which ones are you going to? Which ones do you got circled on the calendar? Anything on the list? Or you got to spend most of your time with on the trainer side of things?
No, I brought my daughter to sit at the booth, so I don't have to be there. I don't know. I'm not even 100% sure who all's doing clinics.
I think he's going to come watch mine.
Yeah, well, come watch Jill's.
There you go. All right, Jason.
Well, I guess the honest answer is I don't have time to go watch anybody else's clinics.
Yeah,
I'm doing
you're
this.
busy.
Actually,
You got your own too.
I'm supposed to be actually teaching a clinic right now with my wife, so
Yeah,
the
thanks
schedule
for making
got
this
flipped
work.
a little bit, so she's taking that one over by herself, and then which is pretty normal actually. We were at an event a week ago, and my voice completely gave out. You couldn't even hear me squeak. So there was one horse who was acting up a little bit in the clinic, so I jumped on it and rode around, and Bronwyn taught the clinic. So she's bailing me out a little bit this last while, and then this one here we have. After this, I have to go start a colt here in a few minutes, and then I have a trailer loading clinic later today. Then I have another colt starting, and there's something else I think today as well. And basically, I'm just bouncing from one of my clinics to the next.
Busy guy.
Hey, last question. You guys were just on Canada's Got Talent. We got to hit that before the end of this show too. Tell us about that experience. You guys were the first equine act on Canada's Got Talent.
Yeah, that was really different. We had to have the horses perform on a stage in a casino. And
wow.
So we were getting them ready. It was really tricky to get them ready because the one horse was a Liberty horse and the other horse was sort of a Liberty/trick horse. And it's very tricky because if anybody's ever done Liberty training, if you train too much, you actually burn them out and they don't listen real well. And so we were trying to practice enough to be ready, but not too much that they would go a little bit silly on us. So we did get ready for that, went through the competition. Horses did really well. 5,000 people there, the lights, cameras, I forget all the stuff they had going on. It was pretty crazy, but it was a ton of fun. All 4 judges gave us a yes, so I was in a pretty good humor about it.
So does that mean you get to move on to the next step, or like what's next?
As of yesterday, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, but they went through all the judges, all the acts that got 3 or 4 yeses are not automatically moved on. They're just considered for the next round. So they went back through ours. To be quite honest, we didn't get the go-ahead on the final one. Now, if I'm being totally honest about it, I think in some ways the fact that they had live horses loose on a stage, I think they were crossing their fingers and holding their breath, and when we pulled it off, I think they're like, thank you, God, let's not try again. So.
All right. Well, once again, thank you to trainers, part of the Trainers Challenge, both Jason Irwin, Dustin Sapola, and clinician Jill Barron. Thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great weekend. Again, thanks to Darby Crouch for being here. I'm Ted Stovin. Everybody have a great rest of the day here at the Horse Expo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.